From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Tuesday, May 16th, 2017. Silver is trading at $16.72 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,234 per ounce. Bitcoin is trading at 1.9 cents, and the average price of Bitcoin is $1,742. AntiWar.com reports U.S. officials have long insisted that Syria's Assad government is carrying out mass executions of detainees throughout the civil war, but the lack of evidence for mass graves has forced the U.S. to shift its narrative, now claiming that a crematorium built outside of Damascus could be the key. The U.S. State Department is now claiming that the mass executions are being carried out with the unconditional support of Iran and Russia, and that the Syrian military is hanging detainees en masse and just throwing them all into the crematorium to cover up the evidence. There's no evidence backing these claims up, of course, apart from satellite photos on the outside of the crematorium, and U.S. officials rather just rehashed a series of things they think may well be happening in Syrian prison, including torture and rape, followed up with a speedy execution and disposal. Indeed, the State Department officials conceded that the whole reason they came up with this new statement was because Russia's foreign minister visited the U.S. last week, and the U.S. wanted to reiterate that there needs to be a regime change in Syria despite Russian opposition. For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co. UPI reports the U.S. Supreme Court on Monday declined to hear an appeal of a lower court ruling that struck down North Carolina's voter identification law. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the two-page ruling, noting the court's decision not to hear the case should not be considered a judgment on the case's merits. Roberts wrote, "Given the blizzard of filings over who is and who is not authorized to seek review in this court under North Carolina law, it is important to recall our frequent admonition that the denial of a petition imports no expression of opinions of the merits of the case." The High Court left in place a Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals ruling that struck down the controversial 2013 law by North Carolina's Republican-controlled legislature and signed by Governor Pat McCrory, also a Republican, who was defeated in November. The judge found that the state's ballot restrictions targeted black voters with almost surgical precision. The legislation restricted voting and registration in 5 ways, which disproportionately affected minority voters, according to the lower court. They required voters to present an approved form of photo identification before casting a valid ballot, cut early voting from 17 to 10 days, eliminated out-of-precinct voting, ended same-day registration and voting, and did not allow pre-registration by 16-year-olds. It would have taken 4 justices to consider the case. Last summer, the justices were divided 4-4 on a request to allow the law to go forward in the election. The state's new governor, Democrat Roy Cooper, has sought to dismiss the appeal. Cooper said in a statement, "Today's announcement is good news for North Carolina voters. We need to be making it easier to vote, not harder, and the court found this law sought to discriminate against African-American voters with surgical precision. I will continue to work to protect the rights of every legal registered North Carolinian to participate in our democratic process." The Southern Coalition for Social Justice and the American Civil Liberties Union also applauded Monday's decision. Del Ho, director of the ACLU's Voting Rights Project, said in a statement, "This law, enacted with what the appeals court called discriminatory intent and almost surgical precision, targeted African-American voters, is meeting its much-deserved demise. An ugly chapter in voting suppression is finally closing." Ballot Access News adds, on May 15th, the U.S. Supreme Court revealed that at its May 11th conference, it had refused to hear all 4 election law cases before it. In addition to the North Carolina case, the court also refused to hear Louisiana Party of Kentucky v. Grimes, thus continuing its 26-year record of refusing all petitions from minor parties and independent candidates that concern election law, unless the major parties were also in the same case. The issue was the state's restrictive definition of political party, one which requires certain support in a presidential race. The court also refused to hear a pair of cases against open primaries brought by the Montana Republican Party and Hawaii Democratic Party. Next week, the Supreme Court may reveal whether it will hear the Republican Party of Louisiana v. FEC case over federal campaign finance laws that inhibit contributions to state and local parties. Soon, it will act on Gill v. Whitford over Wisconsin's partisan legislative gerrymander. This has been FPP Radio News. Online at fppradio.com.